Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore, and today we begin our tour of the NFC divisions with the NFC West. Joining me to break it all down and find you the winning bets is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you tonight?
I am good. I'm working on putting together as few people as possible to beat the Arizona Cardinals in a football game.
I mean, are you sure they did just trade for former Cleveland Brown Josh Dobbs?
Yeah, no,
I think they cut Colt McCoy and the other guy who started like 2 games for him. So whoever they start this year has like 3 games tops under their belt.
Yeah, no, I think if we can cut the quarters to 8-minute quarters, we could find 15 guys to play both ways and beat them. I feel pretty confident in that. I am good. I'm working on putting together as few people as possible to beat the Arizona Cardinals in a football game.
I mean, are you sure they did just trade for former Cleveland Brown Josh Dobbs?
Yeah, no,
I think they cut Colt McCoy and the other guy who started 2 games for him. So whoever they start this year has 3 games tops under their belt.
Yeah, no, I think if we can cut the quarters to 8-minute quarters, we could find 15 guys to play both ways and beat them. I feel pretty confident in that.
We will get to the Arizona Cardinals, but first we have to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. They are plus 1,000 to win the Super Bowl. They are plus 400 to win the NFC, minus 165 to win the NFC West. To make the playoffs, yes is minus 430, no plus 375. Their season over-under total sits at 10.5, minus 143 on the over, plus 140 for the under. Jimmy, the NFC West plays the NFC East and the AFC North this year, so we will get a chance to see them play the Browns. Do you think the San Francisco 49ers win more or fewer than 10.5 games?
Yeah, I got them projected at 11, so I'm going to take the over. I think that 10, 11 wins is where they're going to end up, but I really do think they'll get to 11, so I'm going to go ahead and take the over there.
I'm with you. I'm taking the over. I'm more confident than you are. I think this is one of those teams that gets to 12, 13 wins.
Ooh.
I don't think much of the rest of this division, and while the NFC East and AFC North are both really good divisions, San Francisco's defense is just a different beast, at least when Nick Bosa's on the field. And he's another guy with Chris Jones. I think they figure that out. When you look at how successful Kyle Shanahan has been, it hasn't been about the quarterback, and this is what people get wrong about Garoppolo. It's been about when Bosa's on the field. When he's on the field, They look like juggernauts. And there were times last year where we thought they were probably going to tank with Brock Purdy as their quarterback, and Purdy turned out to be pretty competent and quite good at times, and they were just mauling people. So I don't know what's going to change with that this year. They look really good. It looks like them in Philadelphia are the class of the NFC. Where do you have them in the conference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm betting everything for the NFC. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I think you could bet them to win the NFC, bet them to win the division, bet them to make the playoffs. I think I probably have Philly a little better than them, but I think they're the cream of the NFC. I'm not as confident as you are that they're going to get something done with Bosa. And I think without Bosa, I don't think their defense is as good. I think the pass rush will struggle and the secondary will get exposed. But I'm not sure if it matters with Brock Purdy being the new iteration of what a game manager is. Take a couple shots downfield, but you've got 3 guys that you can throw the ball to around the line of scrimmage and they can do damage. Do that.
Yeah, and he gets so many easy throws to make with the way Shanahan schemes things and with all those weapons. They make the game really easy for him so that when he makes his 2 or 3 deep passes a game, he's not throwing into tight windows. He's sort of like a conductor.
Yeah, and he's done a fine job of it. I mean, I think offensively they'll be okay, but they do have to get Bosa out there. I think if you go into the season without Bosa, and then with everything that went down with Trey Lance, I think I'm starting to feel that maybe Lynch and Shanahan are a little overrated.
But I mean, I understand where you're coming from with that, and I've shared that thought as well. But I mean, even with that dumb move with Trey Lance trading all those picks, they still have like the best roster in the league, or at least one of the best rosters in the league.
Yes.
They just got talent everywhere. They got talent all over the defense, and I know Bosa, he takes them to another level, but they're very solid. I think I'm more sold on their defense without Bosa than you are, but Bosa definitely takes them to another level. And there's just Brandon Ayuk might be a top 10 wide receiver in this league. I don't know, because Deebo Samuel is a top 10 wide receiver in this league, and Christian McCaffrey is one of the 3 or 4 best running backs in the league as well. So he doesn't get a lot of looks. Plus, you have George Kittle, who's the second best tight end in the league. Like, they just have so much weaponry. I do have some concerns about Purdy in terms of how good they can be, and a lot of those concerns mimic what I think about Garoppolo. So
I think that's fair.
he does throw a little bit better of a deep ball, which that is such a weapon to be able to throw 1 or 2 deep passes a game and know that they can be completed, or at least have that threat, because it opens everything else up for them in the short passing game, which is really what Shanahan wants to do. Those deep passes are just to keep you honest, and if you're connecting on those, you're really tough to beat. And we saw that in the Super Bowl. They lost to Patrick Mahomes. Jimmy Garoppolo missed that deep pass. Last year, Brock Purdy hit pretty much all of those.
Yeah, and
well,
I don't
at least
think
until his elbow exploded.
Yeah, I don't think Purdy has to get better, but he can't regress.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
If he regresses, they're gonna struggle.
Well, no, they'll be
Jimmy.
They're gonna be fine. They got Sam Darnold, the next coming of Steve Young. I don't know why you're worried. It's gonna be Sam Darnold back home in California.
When we're done recording, you should put yourself in timeout for 5 minutes.
I don't think Sam Darnold's good, but I think Sam Darnold can be as good as Brock Purdy was last year.
Why you got to make me think about things like that?
And Darnold can run a little bit.
What?
I mean, I don't think he's good, but I think if something happens with Purdy and he regresses and they have to go with Sam Darnold, I think we're going to find that Sam Darnold's a lot like Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, that when you surround him with a lot of weapons and a good offensive scheme, he's going to look like a really good quarterback. That doesn't mean he is a good quarterback. It's just what it's going to look like.
That's pretty much the theme of this division at this point.
Yeah, I guess if we're going to talk about question marks at quarterback, the Seattle Seahawks are a team with Geno Smith that's just like the elephant in the room. It must be addressed. Yep. So let's move on to the Seahawks, who are plus 3,500 to win the Super Bowl, plus 1,400 to win the conference, plus 230 to win the division. To make the playoffs, yes is minus 120, no is plus 110. Their over-under sits at 8.5, minus 142 on the over. Even money on the under. And this was a team that really surprised everybody last year. They went 9-8. They made the playoffs. And I thought they were going to be just dreadful. And Geno Smith made me look like a fool, Jimmy. Or they made pretty much all of us look like fools. Do you think the Seattle Seahawks win more or fewer than 8.5 games? I can almost hear your brain going, I like Pete Carroll, but I hate Geno Smith. I like their wide receivers.
Exactly.
But I'm not totally sold on their defense, even getting Bobby Wagner back.
I'm taking the over, but I don't like it one bit. Like, if they won 5 games, I wouldn't be surprised. Shout out to our boy Sully Shaheed, who has been a Geno Smith truther since the Jets. He's got a jersey to prove it. I just don't know if I can believe that Geno Smith is going to repeat last year, but they've got the weapons. If Jackson Smith and Jigba is healthy, I think that's just a great weapon to add. I like Kenneth Walker at running back. I think Bobby Wagner may have a chance to turn Devin Bush into the superstar a lot of people thought he could be coming out of Michigan. I just don't know if I actually trust Geno Smith. I think that's just simply what it comes down to. And from the eye test to every imaginable metric, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL last year.
Yeah,
I still just don't know if I can believe it.
He was really efficient. He just really played within the offense, and he was really a game manager. They really relied on running the ball and playing good defense, and that's Pete Carroll football. And shame on me for not giving Pete Carroll his due before last season, because that was easy money just sitting out there. If that Seattle team had been Bill Belichick, we would have given him the benefit of the doubt and said he'll figure it out. And I think that's where we are with Pete Carroll. I think I trust him to figure it out. I'm taking the over too. I know the NFC East is good and the AFC North is good, but I don't know. The Rams in Zona, that feels like 4 wins.
Yep.
2 more with the Giants and Washington, and we're already at 6. And, you have your 3 other games against your common opponents or common record opponents, and then they're going to win 1 or 2 games in the AFC North. I don't know which ones it's going to be, but they're going to be in those games because those will be slugfests.
You've got multiple teams from the Midwest or the East of the country who play back-to-back road games where the second road game is in Seattle. Like Cleveland, I believe that's a game Cleveland's going to lose. They're going to find a way. Pete Carroll is going to keep finding a way to make things work, and it's super impressive.
Yeah, tip of the cap to Pete Carroll. I thought they would be lucky to win a game last year. They go 9-8. The Kyle Orton, Geno Smith quarterback competition that we mocked. So it's fine. I'll take my medicine on that one. Another on the opposite side, a team I thought would be good last year that fucking stunk were the Los Angeles Rams. They are plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl, plus 4,500 to win the conference, plus 1,000 to win the division. No to make the playoffs, minus 340. Yes, plus 310. My, how the mighty have fallen, Jimmy. Their over-under sits at 6.5, plus 110 on the over, minus 118 on the under. Do you agree with the rest of the sharps that this LA Rams team that went 5-12 last year with a whole bunch of injuries isn't going to be much better this year?
Yeah, I think they go 5-12 again. I don't think they're any better. Cooper Kupp is already struggling with his hamstring.
Yeah, and they're already playing his hamstrings, he's got some more soreness in his hamstring. And it's like, well, does he really have soreness in his hamstring? Or do you guys just know this is going to be a bad year, so there's no rush in bringing him back?
But, without Cooper Kupp, the skill position is there's nothing there. Defensively, they've just lost so much talent. They've gone subtraction by addition by bringing John Johnson back. I don't think the defense is very good. I think they should trade Aaron Donald for draft picks and get ready to start over, because I think they're going to go 5-12 again. I'm absolutely taking the under here.
Wow. I'm taking the under too. I don't think they're very good. I think Matt Stafford may have won his Super Bowl and realized that what it's going to take, or maybe he just realized that was it, that was their moment, and they probably win that game in a walk if OBJ doesn't get hurt. I know you heard that interview where he said he was going to go for like 250 or something like that. Well, he was kind of on pace for it because they who'd they play in that game? Shit, I don't even remember. The Bengals. Because the Bengals were just like, we're going to fucking double Cooper Kupp, and if OBJ beats us, then so be it. And he was just ripping them apart. This is a great example of fuck them picks. You fuck around, you find out. But people are acting like, was it worth it? Was it a good move? Like, you won a Super Bowl. So
yes. The answer to all of that is yes.
Yeah, it's like, that's the Brian Windhurst thing about bringing LeBron back to Cleveland and trading for Kevin Love. Like, was it a success? Yeah, you won a title. That's what you do it for. It's hard to win a title, and they won one. Man, if Aaron Donald... Wow. What if Aaron Donald wound up in Kansas City?
Yeah, I would hope he...
Although I doubt they would I figure at this point, Chris Jones is a little younger. You'd rather pay Chris Jones than Aaron Donald.
Probably.
Where do you think they might send him? I know, like, everybody's probably screaming, "Oh, what about Cleveland?" Like, did you not hear what I said earlier about the $70 million over the cap next year? Like, you just eat up that 30 because he's at $31 million, I think. So you go right back to being $70 million over the cap next year, and you got to figure that out.
Send him to any team in the NFC. It feels like somehow the Eagles will get him. I don't know. Like,
they just gonna play a whole front of defensive tackles that can rush the quarterback and like good fucking luck. Oh, that would harken back to the days when they had the old Tecmo Bowl days in the late 80s, early 90s before Reggie White went to Green Bay. Like, Reggie White was a terror, and they had Jerome Brown before his tragic accident, Clyde Simmons. Like, they were beasts on Mike Golick was on that defensive line. Like, that team was just defensively just disgusting.
Like, I know it's crazy to say, and it hurts me to say, because I think Aaron Donald is just fit as a Ram. It's been a good spot for him, but I think they should try to. I mean, they don't have a lot of other pieces that they could get anything for, and they're going to need draft picks. This is the comeuppance of the fuck them picks. Now you need them picks, and you got to figure out how to get them back. Because you got to rebuild now.
Or they just
and that's okay because you won a Super Bowl.
Or they just got to be bad for another year or two. I mean, none of us are fans really of the Rams, so it doesn't really bother us that much. But I'm sure LA fans probably don't want to hear that, but that might just be what has to happen.
Yep.
And I mean, it could be worse. You could be the Arizona Cardinals, who are plus 40,000 to win the Super Bowl. They were a trendy Super Bowl pick last year with Kyler Murray coming off his horrific playoff performance for some reason. But now they're plus 40,000 because he's out. Plus 20,000 for the conference. Plus 3,500 for the division. No to make the playoffs is minus 2,000. Yes is plus 1,100. Their over-under sits at 4.5. Plus 130 on the over, minus 142 on the under. This team seems to be going for Caleb Williams, and they're not being very bashful about it, Jimmy. I don't see how they're going to win 5 games. I don't know how they're going to win 3 games. Where do you think they wind up?
I'm not. We've been wrong plenty, but things like Trey Lance and things like the Cardinals head coach and quarterback marriage, we were right about. We told you guys. We told you last year. We told you last year this was going to happen, and now it's happened. I think they should be forced to trade Budda Baker to the Cleveland Browns for like a 7th-round draft pick. Just go ahead and get rid of the last of the talent on the team.
Yeah, because they traded Isaiah Simmons for like a 6th-round pick or something, and they traded another I forget who it was, but they traded somebody they took like in the 1st or 2nd round that can play for like a 7th-round pick, and it's like that's just great return on investment.
I'm sure somehow they'll find a way to win a couple games. I mean, they've got the Falcons, Texans, Bears, and then you've got, the Rams.
But the Falcons are a competently run team. I'm not saying they're a great team, and we'll get to them when we talk about the NFC South. But they're competent, and I don't think Arizona reaches that level.
These were the only teams where I could look at it and go, maybe
they have a chance. Yeah, I mean,
maybe
0-4 in the AFC North is definitely on the table, and honestly, 0-4 against the NFC East is on the table.
Yeah. Maybe they beat the Rams. I don't know. This team is really bad, and they're purposefully being really bad.
Yeah, everybody who said Josh Dobbs could be a starting quarterback in the league are going to find out just how fucking wrong they are.
And the thing that sucks for Caleb Williams is they've traded away so much talent that he'll have no chance of being successful.
Imagine if they wind up with that pick, they'll have taken 3 first-round quarterbacks. So Kyler Murray was the 1st overall pick, Williams would be the 1st overall pick, and Josh Rosen was what? Was 3rd or 4th?
2 or 3, wasn't he?
Yeah, because Allen was 5.
Yeah, he was. I think he was.
Lamar was at the end of the draft.
Yeah.
Who was the other dude that was in there? He got taken like 11th or 12th.
No.
Caleb Young?
No.
God damn it. Now I got to
There
look
was
up.
another one. Yeah.
That was what, 2018?
Yeah, that should be 2018.
Because I remember we watched that draft right before we went and saw one of the Avenger movies.
Yes, we did.
And it's funny, the roller coaster of Baker Mayfield started there because we were both really disappointed with the pick, and then we were happy, and then the next year we were sad, and then the next year we were happy, and then the next year we were sad. Let's see what we got here. Oh, Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, Sam Darnold, Denzel Ward, shame on us, Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson, Josh Allen. Oh, so Josh Rosen went 10th. That must have been who I was thinking of that went like in that 10 to 13 range.
But you're still talking 3 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 in 5 years.
And they also hold Houston's pick, so they're kind of double dipping on this tank job. And a lot of people are saying you get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. and you just go from there, and that would seem like a pretty sound strategy.
Yeah, they'll find a way to mess it up.
They probably will. Kyler, do you think he comes back and plays this year? I mean, he probably wouldn't be medically cleared. Geez, I don't know, like week 7, week 8 at the absolute earliest. I mean, at that point, if they're like 1-7, what's the point?
Yeah, if Kyler Murray didn't play another game for the Cardinals, I don't think I'd be surprised.
Wow. Man, they signed him to that contract extension, and it was just an albatross the second they signed it.
Hey, just a thought. When you're going to sign somebody to a large sum of money, and you have to add in something about making sure they play less video games and study more, maybe you shouldn't do it. It's just a thought. It's just, this experiment was doomed from the start, and it's why Bryce Young shouldn't have been taken where he was taken. Yeah. And I believe that the Cardinals are one of the 3 worst teams in the league. I don't know exactly where I have them with, say, the Colts, but I think they're one of the worst teams in the league.
And a lot of those talking heads that absolutely pounded their fists on the table and said you can't pay Baker Mayfield more than $30 million a year were championing Kyler Murray getting 40 or whatever the fuck he got.
Yep.
Plus, Cliff Kingsbury, not a good NFL head coach. Not a very good NFL head coach.
Not a good idea.
So what are your final thoughts here as we wrap up the NFC West, Jimmy?
Right, it's just going to be who's better, Geno or Brock Purdy? Which one plays more like last year?
As we assumed, a year or two ago, that's exactly how this division would play out. Geno Smith and Brock Purdy.
Exactly what we thought. I think that's just what it comes down to. I think both of those teams, San Francisco and Seattle, have a lot of talent offensively and defensively. I think they're going to beat up on the Rams and the Seahawks, or the Rams and the Cardinals. I think it's going to come down to the quarterback play there. And I think something that might be weird with these two teams is, like, you might see both of them, like, get shellacked by teams from the AFC, and it might make you think they're not as good as they are in the NFC. I think the difference between the two conferences is that much right now, where, you may see them take a 30-point loss against an AFC team, and some of their numbers really fluctuate, and that may be a good time to make some money on them. Because I think, regardless of what happens when they play those AFC teams, Seattle and San Francisco are probably still 2 of the top 5 to 7 teams in the NFC.
Yeah, last year, of the 16 teams in the NFC, to further your point, we got 2, 5, 9, 10, 11 of them had a negative point differential. A couple of them are in the single digits, so okay, but the Seahawks were also +6, so they're right around that even mark. And that will probably be something that continues because the NFC teams are going to have that extra road game this year. And no surprise, the NFC South had the worst point differential in the league. Everybody was minus.
Shocking.
The Saints, -15, led the conference. The Buccaneers, who won the fucking division, were -45. They had the worst point differential.
That's incredible.
It's just so crazy. I guess just a couple of notes. Is this the last season for Is this the last season for Matt Stafford and Aaron Donald? I think that's definitely in play. I know there was a lot of talk about Stafford retiring after they won the Super Bowl, but I think he looked at that roster and thought, yeah, like we can make a real run here, and then everybody got hurt last year, and that just never really materialized. He got hurt. If he gets another injury, I think that's probably going to be it for Stafford. I don't see him wanting to play much further. He's won his ring. He's shown that, when he was with Detroit at least, that he could put up big numbers. I mean, I guess another Super Bowl would really solidify his case for the Hall of Fame. I think he's kind of borderline. I think just out would be my vote probably. But I don't know. I guess maybe he can do something. Aaron Donald's going to be in the Hall of Fame because he's an absolute monster. If he winds up being moved, where he ends up could play a major part because that dude's still really good at football, and he's a difference maker in the middle of a defensive line. We saw what Roquan Smith did for Baltimore's defense last year. I think Aaron Donald would have an even bigger impact on whatever defense he wound up on. But I wouldn't be surprised if both of those guys just sort of ride out the season, maybe shut it down week 12, week 13, something like that, and then they just retire. And they ride off into the sunset on a bad season and just like, all right, this is where the team is. And maybe Sean McVay's done after this season too. He's definitely a guy who could walk away from a bad team and sit out a year, and and then the year after, if he wants to come back to coaching like Sean Payton did, he'll probably become the highest paid coach in the league.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. There were talks Aaron Donald was thinking about retiring before the start of this season. So I don't know. Matt Stafford knows what it's like.
I felt like a lot of that was so he could get his contract.
It's very possible. But Matt Stafford knows what it's like to be really talented and put up big numbers on a team that loses. And I don't know if he'd want to go through that again. So I agree with you. It wouldn't surprise me if they both shut it down and then this is it for both of them.
Yeah, and there's this is not a criticism of Matt Stafford's wife. I think she's right to think about the long-term health consequences of him playing.
Absolutely.
And I think there's family pressures on Stafford, and when you're trying to make those decisions between do I play another year or do I retire and shut it down now and spend more time with my family and my kids? He's made plenty of money. If the Rams win 4 or 5 games this year, like we both think they will, because I'm taking the under 2. I don't know if I said that already. I think it's real difficult for them to get to 6, let alone 7. Just seeing where the team's at and how bad they are, I think this is it for Stafford. Unless there's somebody gets desperate and just decides to try to do the same thing the Rams did, and they think he's the guy that can put him over the top. I don't know who that team is. Obviously, there wouldn't be anybody this year, but
no, and I don't know.
Maybe Green Bay. Like if Jordan Love is terrible, I don't know. Maybe Detroit tries to bring him back because he's an upgrade over Goff. That'd be hilarious. I mean,
that would be incredible.
We'll have a lot of fun talking about Baker again when we talk about Tampa Bay. But if everything goes to shit in Tampa Bay, that's a team that, maybe they think they're good enough. Maybe they get some retooling on defense and think that with their offensive weapons they can make a run. Maybe Minnesota, hey, we think we're good enough. We just think Kirk Cousins holds us back. Like I don't disagree with that. But as long as he stays in the NFC, I think he can be a difference maker for a team if he's healthy and if he wants to play.
I think that's the thing. I just wonder if he's got that same fire that he played with during that Super Bowl run.
Oh, I don't know. I think the desire is there. I think the big thing is, what does his arm feel like every day? We're obviously not him. Like, what does your shoulder feel like after playing a 17 game season now? I think that's the question. And the next biggest question is, like, what does Brock Purdy look like? What does Geno Smith look like? Like, those two guys are going to decide a lot of things. So if they can be competent like they were last year, those teams are going to win a lot of games, and they're teams you're going to want to bet on. San Francisco at plus 1,000 seems like a nice bet for the Super Bowl. I almost feel like their odds are going to drop a little bit at some point, but I also think they're going to rise at some point. So if you like the 49ers, I like that plus 1,000. I think there's good value there, especially because they really only have one team that I think they're competing against in the NFC, because they kicked the shit out of Dallas last year. I don't think that game was very close.
No, it wasn't.
And Dallas,
I do think
they're a pretty good football team. Like we said earlier, we think they're.
Yeah, I do think Dallas has gotten a little better too. But I still agree. I definitely have San Francisco and Philadelphia. I think are just. I think the margin, that difference between San Fran and Philly and everybody else in the NFC, I think it's pretty wide margin.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up the NFC West. We still have 3 divisions to go. You can catch the rest of the AFC podcasts that we did. I will have links to them in the description below. Jimmy, thank you for joining me to start in on the NFC.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
And I would like to thank all of you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please drop us a like or a subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all of our latest podcasts. We will be doing weekly podcasts throughout the season. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore. Thank you for listening to No Broken Legs.